going to discuss how we can do a simple MERN project and deploy this MERN project into Render cloud platform. So Render allows us to freely host our full stack web application. So in this video I am going to discuss that. So first I'll open a empty project, empty directory. So my empty directory is named as test-MERN-render. So as you can see, this is the explorer where I have the project, and this is my terminal. So currently it is empty, and here I'm going to create both backend using Node and Express, connect them, and later create a one single full stack working application. So first let's start with the backend. So first create a directory called as backend, and in this enter into backend directory and install some basic packages. So npm init -y. So it installs some basic packages. As you can see, there are it doesn't install it, but it creates this package.json file which contains some details. And so let us now go to, let's be inside backend and create a file called as server.js. So you can right click on the backend directory to create it, new file, server.js. And here, to make it simpler, so I'm just using it because my goal is to actually explain how to host a MERN application into Render. So I'm not step by step doing this whole code, but I'm using it so that I can explain the core point of this video. So as you can see here, this is a server.js basic content. What it is doing, it is we are we are sending a JSON response. This is the message which we would like to send. Later when we create the front end, this front end receives this message and we try to show it as an output. And we are using various packages like Express and also cards. So this is helpful to actually connect both front end and back end when we are hosting in different port numbers. When we are using different port numbers for front end and back end, codes package takes care of allowing it without restricting link between front end and back end. So once we have this server.js, we, as you can see, we are using a lot of packages like Express, cards. We need to install them. So let's do that. npm install express cards.env. So all these three packages are needed. So let's install in backend. So as you can see, there are a few changes which has happened, and now let us go to the front end part of the code. So there are a few more changes which we need to do, especially since we are importing the modules. We need to type here, type is as modules, otherwise we generally get an error. So this is one thing, and also we need to do one more change that I'll be explaining later. So we need to add here what should be the command which should run when it is hosted in Render. So that we'll see it later, but for now, so save this file, and we have completed the backend thing. So in the same way, we need to create the front end also. Open a new terminal, and so this terminal here, we are creating a simple React application so that we can create the front end part. So as you can see, in this directory we have backend. So here, to create a basic React project, I'll be using this command npx create react -app space front end. So it will create a directory called front end with default React packages. So let's run this in the So as you can see, we have got install all packages. We can see node underscore modules, publics, src. Will be working only with one file, which is app.js. So delete all the content. Once again, I'm using some default code so that it completes quickly, and I'll explain the code. So as you can see, the code contains a very small code. It uses two hooks. One is use state hook and the other is use effect hook. Usually use state hook is used to create reactive variables, which contains both variable name and the method name. And use effect contains three modes, especially when the dependency array is empty, it runs only for the first time. So as you can see here, I'm going to first work with the local host before we actually host it in render. So this is the front end code, and here we are trying to call this backend. So when we run it, we'll be needing this in the front end. So in order to run the front end, first let's enter into front end. So cd front end ls. So this is where we can run the front end. So npm run start. So usually sometimes we get this ajv error, cannot find module. If you're not getting it, there is no problem. If you're getting it, install npm install ajv at the rate 7. So run this so that error we will avoid it. So npm run start. So now as you can see here, we got error failed to fetch because we did not still connect the backend part. So we were able to we were able to render just the front end. So let's now go back to our backend and also try to render it. So here type ls, and to run it type node server.js. So if you run this by running the command node server.js, so earlier it did not work because we did not save it. Now it was working because we saved the file. So now it is running at port 80 and 80. So now let us go to front end and maybe refresh this and run once again npm run start and just check the output. Now you can see front end is able to communicate to backend and retrieve that and able to display this. So as of now, we kept in the front end, we are calling localhost 8080. That's because that's what our output is at 8080 port. So therefore it is able to retrieve the output which we have mentioned here. So hello from node express backend, this is what we have seen. So front end is able to retrieve from the backend. The same thing should happen in the render. So in order to do that, first we need to push both of these project into GitHub. So let's start pushing this into GitHub. So control C backend. So let's initialize the repository. So git init, and it created initialized a repository. So the next command is git space add space dot git commit -m. You can write anything here, initial commit, just a comment. So now type git branch minus capital M main. So now let us go to our GitHub and try to create a repository and connect that to our local repository. So I am now calling this as test-MERN-render-backend. This is the name I'm giving to my repository. So create repository, and as you can see, these are the commands which we need to follow. We have already followed the first 4. Let's follow this one too, so that git remote will be completed. So git remote add origin, and finally git push -u origin main, so that all the files will be pushed to from local computer to the remote GitHub repository. So So it has pushed successfully. So now let us before pushing, this was the content, it was empty, the repository. Now after refreshing it, you can see clearly all the backend packages which have been pushed from the local system to the GitHub repository. So in the same way we should also do for the front end. So go to the front end terminal, Control C, and here once again initialize repository git init, and get space add space dot, and git commit -m initial commit, and git branch -M main. And here we need to once again go to our repository GitHub and create a new repository with the name test -MERN render frontend, and this repository will be created. And as you can see, once again we have done all these 4 steps. We have to do this, so copy this and paste it in terminal, so that git remote, and finally git push -u origin, so that all the files will be moved from copied from local repository to the remote repository. So let's verify it, the files. So if you go and refresh it, so as you can see, these are all React files, so they got pushed from the local repository to the remote repository. We did not do in backend. One, as I stated, there is something to be added here, as we are hosting in render. So that is start. When you start it, what command to run will be mentioned here. So node server.js, and save this. And also so usually you also have a .env file to share some important to put all the important information. So create a file called as .env, and usually port numbers are placed here, so 8080. And also when it is in development, you may need this environment node_env is equal to development. So save this file. So since we made the changes, so save this, and as you can see there is some error, so put a comma here, so and save this. And we need to once again, since we made changes, we need to push it once again. So so in backend, just do git add space dot, git commit -m changes. You can write changes 1, and git push origin main. So once you do it, the changes which we have done will be pushed to the GitHub. So let's see whether that has happened or not. So if you go to the repositories and go to backend, so here .env file has been created, the file content as you can see here, and also package.json will contain this extra line which you have included. So all the changes which you have done in the local repository got pushed to GitHub. So now we are ready to host in render. So let's now go to render. So type render in Google, get started for free. So you can log in through your GitHub account, and here you could there are various services which you can for front end we will be using static site, and for back end we will be using web service. So as I want to do web back end, so click on web service, and click on public git repository and give the link for the public repository. So this was the link, so let us copy this and paste it here. So this is the link for backend repository. So connect it, and here we will be using backend web service. Language is node, branch is main. So since there is no subdirectories, we are going to keep the root directory same. Build command would be npm install, and here start command should be npm start, and select the free type, and you can deploy the web service. So we are deploying now the backend service. So let us see what sort of response we get. Is successful. So we can click on this backend link. It will take some time to show the output, but our main goal is to create front end. So as of now there is no output, so let's now create the front end URL also in render. So go to render and let's create now a static site. So new static site, and once again we should mention the public git repository. So let's go to our GitHub and give the link for the front end directory, front end repository. So copy this URL and paste it in here, so that React connect to the front end which is there in GitHub. And once this is done, as you can see, the main branch would be main, and the build command is npm run build, and publish directory is build, and we are not changing anything, exactly as what we have here. So now let us deploy this static site. But as you know, we actually did not change in our project the URL. So here we are supposed to change from localhost to the actual URL. So let's copy the URL from the backend. So we know that this is the backend URL. Just let's copy this and go to our project and try to replace this part of the code. Control V, and yeah, we don't need this extra, and remove this, and so save this file. So we have changed now localhost to this. So these changes has to be once again pushed to GitHub. So let's do again. So let us do push once again backend, front end. So git space add space dot git commit some changes. You can write it here, and git push. We don't need -u when you are pushing it second time. So git push origin main. So the changes which we have done to the app.js file will be reflected now in our GitHub. So as you can see, we have the link is also updated now. So since this has to run, so let's deploy it once again, because we have made some changes. So deploy with the latest commits. We got already the front end link, but let's deploy with the latest commits. Put here. So this is the front end URL link created in render. So this is the output which we are getting. So if you observe from the code that this is coming from backend, and this is accessed, this is sent as a response from backend to the front end. So, and front end is now able to retrieve that and show us as an output in render. So let's understand to this code. So what happened is, this is our front end code, app.js. We are fetching the message content from this URL, and whereas that message is given, this is the backend server.js. So here we passed this response, and that is being retrieved through fetch operation here. And whatever message we got, we are setting that using set message hook, use state hook. And so here we set the message, and we are tried to print the same here. So what is happening is we got our front end is able to successfully get the message content from the back end and was able to successfully display as an output. So this is the final output which we would like to demonstrate. This is the front end link and the back end link. The front end is successfully obtained, was able to obtain the response from the back end and display here. Thank you.